You are listening to the Cattle Call Podcast. This is the place where computer-aided design and drafting meets humor and practicality, with a touch of business acumen thrown in for fun. Jim and Rocco, the owners of Zentech Consultants, the premier U.S. technology consulting firm for architecture, engineering, construction, and manufacturing, discuss the fascinating world of CAD with some humor and some honesty. The Cattle Call Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cattle Call Podcast with Jim and Rocco from Zentech Consultants. I am Jim, your fun host, and with me, as always, is my partner,
Rocco.
You see, we record these weekly, and in a whole week, he can't come up with anything other than his own name. You see what he does to me? And that's why I have to make you all suffer.
Well, who says you're fun?
Oh, me? I mean, I'm the only one I listen to anyway, so it works out. As long as I'm entertaining myself, I'm fun.
So you just come up with all these crazy adjectives about yourself.
Well, who's going to tell me otherwise? All you're going to say is Rocco. So I can say whatever I please. It's fine. It all works out.
We should take this show on the road.
Yeah, a lot of people tell us to hit the road, so that's a whole other story. But it still doesn't save you from having to listen to the engineering joke of the week, Rocco. All right, ready for this?
I'm ready.
How many nuclear engineers does it take to change a light bulb?
I don't know. How many?
7. 1 to install the new bulb, and 6 to figure out what to do with the old one for the next 10,000 years. Huh? Oh, God, they keep getting worse. It's awful.
Yeah.
All right, folks. So it is time for another episode of kind of a recurring topic here on the Cattle Call. And we call this Month in Design Build, right? Where we kind of take a look at what new and exciting things have happened recently in our industry. It kind of gives us a chance to talk about news stories that caught our eye and that we think may have a big impact on our listeners moving forward. And the first article that I want to hit on today was actually from a site called FreightWaves. Obviously not one of our usual outlets. They're more of a transportation-focused thing. But the article is called Truck Drivers, Construction Workers, and Other Manual Workers Are Getting a Huge Pay Raise, So Get Used to It. Which, the construction reference here obviously caught my eye. And I will say that, if you guys go look this up on the interwebs, it's really more of an extended blog post than a news article. But the idea behind it was really interesting to me. It talks about the recent announcement of massive pay increases for UPS drivers, right, that we've all heard about. And it talks about the growing wage requirements for all people working in what the article calls the quote-unquote physical goods economy. Look, those are, people working in the field, right? Those are plumbers and construction workers and electricians and truck drivers and farmers, etc. Right? People who handle the physical work that needs to happen in order to make the world run. And it points out that over the last decade or so, investors and large tech firms have invested literally billions of dollars into the concept of fully digital environments and things like, autonomous delivery and autonomous construction systems, but that almost all of them have failed miserably and the companies have gone under, mainly because the real world is too complex and that it can't be reliably digitized or predicted in any type of computer modeling or any of our current AI or machine learning systems. And this article, points out the lack of trained tradespeople in those physical spaces, right? Particularly in younger generations, all right, as this key factor in the rising wages, and that it's something that is not likely to change anytime soon. And actually, the author here actually predicts a long-term change in the very fabric of our society, I guess, where we are shifting from incentivizing, college attendance and digital office work as like the premier thing you want your kids to do, and that we're going to change the mindset here and offer our younger generations a more balanced approach. right? Where, physical labor is recognized and valued and as well paid as degreed technical work. So Rocco, let's bring you here. What are your thoughts in this, right? I mean, you deal directly with a lot of the C-suite executives, I guess we'll call them, at the large design build firms. Are they all seeing this trend, and does it come up in any of your conversations?
It doesn't come up in too many conversations. I mean, I think at some level, it seems like you got to be careful what you talk to people about these days because it becomes a political discussion, right?
Very true.
But I mean, it's it's reality, right? I mean, these people are part of the fabric of our country and what needs to be done day in, day out, right? I mean, they're busting their butts, working hard, and it's just, it makes sense that they should be paid right, in my opinion, right? That's my own little opinion, but to me, and Jim, you and I talk about this often, right? So I think I know you agree with me on this point. It only makes sense. I mean, we've had the folks from the General Building Contractors Association on this podcast once or twice too, and they talk about how difficult it is to even find people that are interested in the trades. Well, it stems from paying them right. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's step one. And listen, we all are going to be in a lot of trouble if we can't get sufficient tradespeople out there to do the work in this industry that we live in. It's going to, as you talk about costs and price problems, you may want to save a couple of dollars this week on your salary, but we're all going to be out of business in 10 years if we don't start fixing that. So, yeah, I agree with you 100%. All right, so the next article that I wanted to talk about, it kind of runs in the same vein as the first one, but this one was actually in USA Today, and it was titled, quote, Biden to reinstate labor rules shelved by Reagan, giving construction workers a pay boost. And again, obviously the construction stuff catches my attention. And generally what the article talks about is a change that the Biden administration is pushing in to the federal government's definition of what the prevailing wage rate is for federal contracts. The current administration is actually changing the defining definition of prevailing wage back to what it was from its original inception, which was part of what they call the Davis-Bacon Act in 1931. And the definition held until Ronald Reagan changed it in 1983. And it's been a little bit less since then, right? So essentially, what the Biden administration is doing here is going to bring back, the prevailing wage for non-union federal projects, right? When people are working on there, they have to pay a prevailing wage even when it's non-union. But it's going to kind of bring the rates back in line with what a union worker would get paid. And the original definition of a prevailing wage demanded that people would be paid at minimum an equivalent of the average of what at least 30% of workers in that trade are paid in a given region, right? So you average out what 30% of the plumbers make, and that's what you get. And that will include the union workers and so on. And the Reagan era cut actually shifted that percentage number down so you could use the average of 50% of the workers, right? Which it obviously will work out to a much lower number. So it dramatically cut pay rates, right? Which was, to the benefit of, business owners and general contractors, but it was, hurtful to the labor guys. And look, again, Rocco and I try not to be political here, and I know that a lot of people listening may oppose this change, and that's fine, right? So we're going to keep our opinions out of this, but I think it highlights the shift in our industry back towards labor having a more powerful voice, I guess, in the design build world at large. For many, many decades now, it's been the owner-operators dictating things, and that's changing, and it's changing real fast, and we're going to have to adopt to that. So Rocco, we've talked plenty of times on this podcast, about the shortage of labor in our industry. Do you think that higher wages and more labor-focused programs are really the answer to help kind of focus and fix those issues?
I think equal balance. What it comes down to is equal balance is the right way to go, right? I mean, you, why should why should one person get paid to do the same job, exponentially more than the person sitting next to you? I mean, it just it just logically makes sense that it should be equal balance, in my opinion.
Yeah, on the
Yeah.
labor side, yeah, I agree. I think the concern there really comes into right, and again, it is a question to my mind of balance. That, and listen, I'm a business owner. I want to make as much profit as I can, but we do also have to be fair, right? We can't just pocket every dime that comes in and not pay our staff, a reasonable rate for the effort that they put in. And I think that's been it. It's been so long where unions get what they get because they're powerful, they're strong, they can demand a certain amount. But on these non-union federal jobs, right, the owners and so on, they're the ones who are making the bulk of that, and they're paying their laborers a lot less and taking that extended profit. And I agree with you. There's got to be a balance, right, between those two. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's something that everybody out there really has to kind of think about and start, planning for your future structure and how you're going to handle your jobs. All right. So I tell you what, let's take a quick break here to let our sponsors get a word in. And we'll come back with more interesting industry news that I found in the next half of the show. So stick around, folks. We'll be back in a minute with more of the Cattle Call Podcast. All right, everybody. Today we are our own sponsor. This is Jim and Rocco with Zentech Consultants. And what do we want to talk to the folks about today, Rocco?
We're going to talk about how to make barbecue meatballs. How does that sound, Jim?
Sounds good to me.
All right. So we're here to talk about our Procore services. We are Procore certified consultants here. So, Jim, what kind of services do we offer?
So when it comes to your Procore software, we're here to help you guys with just about everything you need, from getting it set up, configuring it to your needs, importing your client database and your previous contracts, structuring reports, or even just helping you guys on the daily with the the workflow and the things that you have to do on a regular basis in terms of timesheets and really just about anything from, like we said, setup and configuration all the way through advanced training for all of your staff on how to use Procore in the method and the way that works best for your firm. So, Rocco, if folks need a little bit of help with Procore, how do they reach us?
Yeah, you can reach us. Hit up our website. We have a new website. It's zentechconsultants.net. That's ZENTEK consultants.net. Or give us a call, 866-824-4459. Or drop us an email, sales@zentechconsultants.net.
All right, and if you call now, Rocco will tell you how to make meatballs. All right, folks, we'll talk to you later. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Cattle Call Podcast. We're kind of doing our semi-monthly, I guess we'll call it, industry news recap today to kind of keep you guys up to date with, what's going on in the design build world. And the next article that I want to hit on is from Business Insider, and it is titled, Undergrad enrollment in petroleum engineering has dropped 75% over the past 10 years, even though they make 40% more than computer science grads. And that is a mouthful of a title, and I never would have cut in the days of newspapers where I grew up. But on the web, I guess that works out just fine. Look,
They had newspapers in your day?
And they had like stone tablets. Me and Fred Flintstone, he still owes me $20 from high school, that guy. That's how old I am.
Wow.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. But yeah, I found this article really, really interesting, right? Because it kind of speaks to the changing mindset of the upcoming generation of engineers and designers and even just young people. There seems to be a pretty consistent belief, or maybe it's an understanding, that petroleum on a large scale is on its way out. And the chief concern cited by students who were interviewed for the article is that even though there is a lot more money in this petroleum industry to be made right now, the feeling is that it is not going to be a viable career option in the next 10 to 20 years. It's a really, really high demand field at the moment, right? With starting salaries that they're quoting, this is crazy to me. Their starting salaries right out of college at $130,000 plus per year. right? And that over 90% of graduating students who are coming out with degrees in some type of petroleum-related engineering field are getting work day one right out of school, right? But even with that, they're seeing that enrollment in any of these programs is dropping dramatically. It just kind of leads me to something that I've been seeing a lot of, and I'll ask Rocco about it, what he sees in a minute, but something I've been seeing with a lot of our clients. It's kind of that, the so-called future of green energy is pretty much not the future anymore, that it's here and that it's fixed and that's not going to change. I think American culture is moving us in that direction, right? Whether you guys listening agree with the concepts of climate change or not, this is where our industry is going. There's just going to be a much greater dependence forced by, cultural mindset shifts that drive us into those, solar and wind and other energy options outside of the petroleum situation. And I will be fair and say petroleum is never going to go away. I think a lot of people, you say petroleum, they're thinking about gasoline and oil. And you realize that every piece of plastic on this planet is petroleum based, for the most part. Your iPhones and all of the stuff that you do, here on our computers and our microphones and our laptop, it's all based on petroleum at some level. So I don't think it'll ever disappear, but I do think you're going to see a big shift away from the big oil refining, gas guzzling kind of stuff. I think that's kind of written in stone at this point. So you're Rocco, how many of the people that you talk to are kind of working, solar and wind or other green type projects versus, petroleum based drilling or mining jobs, right? We do a lot of work in that civil space. And do you see that, or do they see that as a long-term or even permanent path for their corporate growth?
Yeah, so it's funny because when I clicked on the article that you sent me, Jim, and you click on the link and up comes a pop-up about renewable energy discounts for New Jersey residents. So
what a shock. It's almost like the algorithms know what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, there's a lot more discussions and even spend. I mean, we work with some customers in the renewable energy area. It's definitely where everything is moving. But I think you make a lot of valid points. I mean, there's challenges no matter which direction you go in, right? And I don't think you'll ever replace petroleum. It's going to take a long time. But we're definitely moving in that renewable energy, and there's opportunities within engineering. I mean, in what we do day in and day out, from the technology standpoint, to grow and learn and educate people in these areas as well.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we've been seeing a lot more projects coming through, for folks who are, needing our help in the civil space, right, and how to build solar farms and, working with, Revit and modeling in different systems to, calculate all the different types of solar impact under different weather conditions and times of day and year and so on. We've been seeing just a lot more of that over the last few years.
Yeah.
I guess the last article for today that I really wanted to hit on actually comes from Forbes, and it is called Home Renovation Spending to Continue on a Downward Spiral into 2024. And it actually discusses the way that, interest rates and a shortage in home inventory and the ease of COVID restrictions have actually dramatically slowed the implementation of, I guess that's the word I'm looking for, implementation of home improvement projects. So Forbes, they're estimating a drop of almost $29 billion in spending in home renovations over the next year. And that is a drop of almost 6% of the total industry. That's an absolutely huge number. And it is likely to have a pretty serious negative impact for a lot of our listeners who work in the residential and small commercial spaces. On the other hand, right, again, I like to try and look at both sides of these issues when I bring these stories out. There's a potential, at least, that this slowing of home renovations can have a positive impact for the construction industry as a whole, right? See, it's like they say, there's always a silver lining, right? Right. The drop in demand for these, home renovation materials has the potential, at least, to decrease material prices and to improve, construction material lead and delivery times, right? Which could be a major net positive for, our larger GC and larger contractor clients out there and listeners. And this article also goes into a bit about the low inventory of houses for sale that is causing a big piece of this slowdown, and that we'll call it the glut of investors who are buying just massive numbers of private homes and holding them off the market to inflate prices short term is really having a hugely negative impact on the building industry as a whole, right? It's really hard for all of us, right? Because, the investors and the venture capitalists are making a killing right now, but with no homes, there's nothing to build. Nobody can buy because rates and everything are off, and they're not allowing people to get into the new housing market, right? And this is something that I get to see myself, recently, right? As my son just bought his first home, and he put in a bid on a house that he really liked, and he just went in $10,000 above asking price the day that the house hit the market, right? And he got the home. And then at the closing, he got to talk directly to the previous owner, the guy who was buying it from. And, he asked the guy, did I get it because it was the highest bid? Did I bid higher than anyone else? And the owner laughed and told him that he actually got, in that one day that this was on the market, he got over 30 bids, 8 of which matched my son's, right? The reason he got the house, he was the only one who had gone ahead and gotten pre-approved financing. That was literally the only reason he got the house. And that level of artificial shortage, right, is crushing new homeowners, and it is stagnating a huge chunk of the construction world because there's just no money, no income. People can't lay their hands on houses for renovation, updates, renewals, and new construction is also feeling that pinch as well because of interest rates and so on that are kind of impacted by all this. So Rocco, how much work, I guess, are our clients doing in the residential space right now? Is it still a big part of their portfolios, or do you see they're focusing, more on like commercial and industrial work?
Yeah, we work across the board, so we see everybody. We talk to everybody in all the areas. I don't hear much of a change, at this level. And again, you look at one article and it says one thing. You look at another article and it pulls in the opposite direction. I mean, I think overall, construction is still very, very strong, and they don't expect it to change much. I mean, we're in, what are we in, almost mid-August here, right, when we're recording this, and last month's numbers in residential were a little bit down, but whatever I'm reading is that it's expected to pop right back up. So I don't foresee a change. I mean, based upon my discussions with folks, and they've got so much backlog that they can't even keep up with the work. And this is across, even on the engineering side, right? On the architects and civil engineers that we talk to, everybody's saying the same thing.
Yeah, and that's actually a fair point, right? Yeah, don't take any of these articles, right? I bring them up because they caught my interest. That doesn't mean they're the God's honest truth. Rocco's absolutely right. Because for every one article, there's 2 that say I'm full of crap. All right, so I think that kind of gives you guys enough to think about for one day. So like I said, hey, and if you guys want to talk about this, feel free to reach out to Rocco. Don't call me and complain at Rocco because that's his job. At least he does something. He fields complaints. So if you guys think we're full of it, or you have different opinions on any of these topics, and you want to raise a ruckus and give Rocco something to do, feel free to reach out. Hey, Rocco,
what if I think you're full of it?
Everybody who listens to the show knows you think I'm full of it. I think I'm full of it. Come on. Anybody who's listening to me, y'all need to get yourself checked because that ain't right. So how do people contact you, Rocco, if they want to tell us that we're full of crap?
Oh boy. Oh, you got our contact information. It's there.
It's there. Go hit our website. It's out there. Yeah. Send an email to we're not listening at wedon'tgiveadamn.com. Oh, that's not the right address? Oh, yeah, you can find the complaint department. It's the square bin next to my desk. Just drop your note in there. It's fine, folks. All right, everybody. That's enough of us for one day. We're going to get out of here, and we'll catch you next time on the Cattle Call Podcast. All right, everybody. Today's Cattle Call was brought to you courtesy of Zentech Consultants. That's Rocco and I. Zentech Consultants works with design and manufacturing firms to help our clients purchase and implement the software that they need in these complex industries. We provide a single point of contact for clients to buy, develop, and learn the most vital software systems for your specific needs. Zentech strives to be your trusted technology partner from your initial needs all the way through long-term support and training for your entire staff. So Rocco, why don't you tell them how to reach out to Zentech?
All right, yeah, you can reach out to us through zentechconsultants.net. You can email us at sales@zentechconsultants.net, or you can even call us 866-824-4459.
Excellent. We look forward to hearing from y'all.